This is The Wheel Weaves, a Wheel of Time podcast with no spoilers. Before we get into our episode today, we just wanted to give a shout out to all of our awesome listeners around the world. At time of recording today, we have downloads from Canada, United States, Brazil, United Kingdom, Australia, Russia, Philippines, Saudi Arabia, France, Italy, Romania, Austria, Germany, Sweden, Israel, Netherlands, Norway, Hungary, Bulgaria, India, Turkey, and Spain. If you're in a country that we might have missed or our stats might not quite be up to date, you can give us a shout on social media and we'll make sure to recognize you next time. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. This podcast is safe for first-time readers because it's made by me, a first-time reader. I'm your host, Dani, and I'm the one who's taken on the task of reading through this 15-book mega-series. I'm joined by my co-host, Brett, who's a longtime fan, and he's acting as my tour guide on this journey. This episode, we're going to be discussing Chapter 4, The Gleeman.
Yeah. So you want to get into it right away? Or?
Yeah, so Gleeman.
Gleeman, yeah, it's a profession,
Is
right?
Gleemen plural? If there was like a group of Gleemen?
Probably. I would assume so.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well let's just get right into this because this chapter was a little dull.
Okay.
I mean, the last chapter we got so much interesting information.
Yeah.
And this was more of a setup chapter.
Yeah. This is a lot of like they're giving you information about the world we're in still.
But it's not interesting information is the issue.
I'm going to try to make it interesting.
Okay, that's what my hope is because this was a little dull for me.
That's fair. No, I totally get that reading through it. When I read through it today, I was thinking, oh my god, this is really fun information. But I can totally see why it would come off as a little bit dull.
It was dull.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we start off with a new picture.
Yeah.
And it's a little harp. And now, I may be way off base here.
Yeah.
But I think that Gleeman play harps.
They probably maybe.
And so I think that there's no going around this one. There's no extra hidden meaning behind this.
It's not like a cornucopia full of fruit again.
No, not that. I think that he just
plays a harp.
He sings, he entertains and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is clearly for the Gleeman.
Yeah, totally. 100% accurate on that one.
Right. Okay. So let's get right into it then.
But wait, before we do, do I get to do my fun fact this time?
Oh, sure. You have more fun facts?
Yeah, I told you, I always have fun facts. So we can, well, I mean, I bet some people probably are going to listen to this solely for my fun facts.
They all want your facts.
Yeah.
They all want your facts.
Okay, I promise I'll try not to make this one too boring.
Okay. The other ones weren't boring. They're interesting. It's just not the book.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm into your facts.
Here we go. So this one's not actually technically about Robert Jordan. Oh. This one is about the awesome, wonderful, intelligent woman behind Robert Jordan. So,
okay.
Yeah, his wife.
I can get on board with that.
Yeah, Harriet McDougal is his wife, and she is the primary editor for the Wheel of Time series.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because this entire series, I mean, RJ gets a lot of the credit all the time, obviously, because he was the main writer of the series, but a lot of people don't always know that Harriet really followed along with the series right from beginning to end. Right, so she was the main editor for the majority.
So a super dynamic duo.
Yeah, and the funny thing about their relationship is that RJ has been quoted as saying that every one of the female characters in Wheel of Time have at least one trait of Harriet.
Okay.
Yeah, so he kind of drew off real life.
I wonder if we could go and pick out, is she short and hot-tempered?
Hits people with sticks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't speak to that. But yeah, so it is said that he kind of drew from her personality, and that's why a lot of the female characters are really strong, and they have their own really dynamic personalities, because he was drawing that off a real-life example.
Cool. Okay, well that makes me like him a little bit more.
Yeah, and she's actually really active in the community still, so she still attends things like the conventions, everything that goes on with the Wheel of Time series. So she's very involved.
Okay, and she also helped write the last books after he passed, right?
So she actually chose Brandon Sanderson to be the author. And yeah, so she was really involved in the note-taking of what RJ wanted to become. So she definitely had a hand. I don't think she did any of the actual writing, but she definitely was there in an advisory capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's a fun fact, Brett.
Yeah, fun fact about Harriet. So I think she's awesome.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So right into chapter 4.
Yeah, let's
Here
get
we
into it
go.
now.
So this chapter is called The Gleeman, and I sure hope that we are actually going to meet this Gleeman. There's a lot of hype surrounding him. We have some predictions surrounding him.
Yep.
But this probably means that we're still in the same moment.
Okay.
And that also means, will Bel Tine ever come?
It possibly might in another 5 to 12 chapters.
Oh my gosh, I've just been waiting and waiting for Bel Tine to come.
So I don't know why, because this might possibly be the worst Bel Tine we've ever
That
had.
sounds exciting. I want to read about that.
You don't want to hear about just an awesome festival?
Well, I want to hear about that too. I want to hear either or. I just want to get
Just
there already.
something.
I'm
Okay.
a little impatient waiting
Okay.
for Bel Tine. Okay, so a little slow to the beginning of the book,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But okay.
But
So-
here's two paragraphs on describing the Gleeman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear my paraphrasing on this?
I do want to hear your paraphrasing.
Okay, so a white-haired man leaves the inn. He has his Technicolor dream coat on, so this must be our Gleeman.
Yeah, apparently this is the guy, the big bushy mustaches.
That's how
Yeah.
he was described by the mayor.
Yeah.
That he had a big fancy coat with many colors. So after that, I was like, oh yeah, okay, for sure.
This is the guy.
This is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I have for description of him.
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Okay.
Blue eyes, I wrote down. And
I do actually have that.
Yeah.
I have that because Rand notes that everyone he's ever met has dark eyes.
Yeah.
Except for himself.
Yeah, and he got made fun of as a child for having gray eyes.
Yeah, he got teased.
Yeah.
All the time. And then Rand starts to wonder if there's a place where everyone has light eyes.
And it's kind of funny, you don't think about that. If you've never seen any other eye color than, brown or dark, that's a unique thing to see. And now he's got a couple of strangers in the last day, right, couple hours realistically, that have different colored eyes.
Right, because also Lan.
Yes.
He wonders where Lan might have come from.
The land of blue-eyed people, apparently.
Yeah.
So
Gwen is really excited and says, "The Gleeman, yeah, he's here." And the Gleeman is super pissed off. He's in an old man tiff.
yeah, he's had a rough start, to be fair.
Yeah, he says, "What kind of place is this?" And understandably so.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, the village on the hill, which is at Watch Hill.
Yeah, so he probably came from Terran Ferry north.
Yeah.
And then came down to Watch Hill.
It seems to be the only way to really get into this place anyway.
Yeah,
is
pretty
from the
much.
north. Okay.
And it seems like when he got to Terran Ferry, he made it down to Watch Hill, and then he refers to them as the yokels in the village on the hill.
Yeah.
Told them that he can make it by nightfall, but turns out that they kind of left out that he'd have to leave by noon. So he probably did the whole trip from Terran Ferry all the way down to Emmons Field.
Yeah, so they
within
told him
this
he'd get
day.
to Emmonsfield quickly, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So
That's a bad start.
Yeah, and then not only that, so after this long journey longer than he expected, then he shows up, and the innkeeper is rude to him when he shows up, and treats him like a wandering swineherd.
Yeah, and we saw Bran kind of flip out over that in the previous chapter.
Yeah, he was like, this idiot
This
shows
crazy
up in the
Gleeman,
middle of the
yeah.
night. Like, who does that?
Turns out not his fault.
Yeah, well, sort of. Not his fault. I mean, he probably could have said,
Yeah, he could have, dug
figured out a
deeper.
little more, but whatever. So we'll pass over that. And also, Bran failed to tell him that he's the mayor. The village council, who had begged him to come to Bel Tine, and they also treated him super poorly after he came down in the morning.
Yeah, and that was when the village council bustled in because of all the hubbub that Padden Fane was building, right? They hustled into the inn to have that conversation.
Right.
Gleeman comes downstairs because he probably slept
but not
in.
only that, they were also already planning on having a village council meeting.
Yeah.
Probably about some important stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And so they're already in this mindset. Then the peddler shows up with this crazy news of war, and now they're really serious into talking to Fane.
Yep.
This Gleeman comes down to have a pipe by the fire.
Yeah, pipe and a drink sounds good.
Yeah, and he basically is told to get out!
Yeah, and then you got Sen Buey complaining to him about what he should and shouldn't say. Just a whole bunch.
Right, and then so not only does Sam Buey yell at him and tell him to get out, a young girl child yells at him to get out also.
Yeah. So that's our famous Nynaeve with her stick.
And who ever heard of treating a Gleeman so?
Yeah, he hasn't had the best, not to what his standards are.
No,
anyways.
I bet he is used to being treated like a king and isn't used to people being rude to him.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense with all the hype that the village boys have had about this and everything. Yeah. It kind of sounds like he usually gets a good treatment.
Yeah, he's the guy.
He's the guy.
He's like the pop star.
Yeah.
Who's like come to town to be the entertainment, which is a big deal. So at this point, I think for sure that this is a real Gleeman.
Yep.
And not some criminal on the run.
Probably not.
As previously guessed.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I'll take that loss, which is fine. Yeah. I was just pulling at straws for fun.
That's okay. I'm good with that still.
But I'm happy that he's a real Gleeman, and hopefully they're going to get some good entertainment at this festival. If it's, we predicted it might be a little bit terrible. Maybe this will be a little bit of light.
They'll get some fun out of it, at least.
Well, maybe, because he seems pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he just decided to leave.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. So at this point, I note here that it seems that he's only really talking to our group of boys or young adults. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everyone is still hanging around, or if they've sort of dispersed now, and Rand, Matt, Perrin, and Egwene are sort of the only ones. He seems to be directing this only at them.
Yeah, like when we last left them, we had Perrin, Matt, Rand, and Egwene kind of talking in that circle where they're talking about the Black Rider and everything like that, and Egwene didn't know what was going on. So I'm assuming everyone kind of dispersed, and he just bustled out, and these four are literally the only people
getting
in front of him.
Getting the brunt of his displeasure.
Yeah, they're the only people here, so he's just like yelling.
Okay, so he's just yelling basically at these four young teenagers.
Yeah, teenagers basically. So
and they're like, okay. So Rand pipes up to explain the sitch, tells the Gleeman that wisdom was actually the one who's in there talking, and he's shocked, and he seems to have the same opinion as everyone else who meets her, that she's too young.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly she appears to be really young. Maybe that she is young for the position, but it's also like she appears to be younger than she actually is, so she's probably just got like the young face.
Yeah, and she also might be short. That's something that I've experienced in my life, is I feel like I'm treated younger than I am, based purely on
physical stature. Yeah, he calls her a pretty slip of a girl, right? So,
ugh,
not
gross.
a very.
That's so gross.
He's like an old guy too, so not a good start.
No. So Rand goes on to say that the rude man is actually also on the village council.
Yeah,
and we just learned about the war in
Gleedan.
No,
Gleedan.
And he's super dismissive about this. He's like, old news.
Yeah.
Old news. You're the last place in the world to find out about this.
Yeah, like, it's apparently, from the way he's dismissing it, I would think that this war is actually already over.
Yeah, it's like we've already heard about it. It's already done.
So do you think that Padden Fane knows that it's over? Like
I don't think it's over.
Or close to being?
I don't think it's close to being over.
I always felt like when I read that Padden Fane's just telling you that the war is going on because he wants he's not going to get a very good...
No, I think that he definitely has stories to tell.
Yeah.
And I think he's excited to tell his stories, and of course he exaggerates. But I think that this Gleeman being really dismissive of it doesn't necessarily mean that the war is over, but just that it's not affecting him personally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that this guy is pretty self-absorbed.
Yeah.
And he maybe has come from the north, and we know that this war is going on
in the
south of Emmonsfield. So maybe he's heard news of it, but he hasn't seen any of the sort of aftermath or any of the discord caused by this war. So
he just doesn't care.
He just doesn't care. He's like, I've already heard about it, and nothing's changed for me.
Yeah.
So, like, you stupid idiots. Don't you? This isn't a big deal. Okay, so more bad news for this Gleeman. He recognizes Padden Fane's peddler cart.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting that they know each other.
Well, sort of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how big this world actually is.
Yeah.
But people seem to know each other, especially these travelers maybe they don't know each other personally, but maybe they've heard of each other. Well, he recognizes his cart.
Yeah,
so...
well, they're both in the business of traveling to small villages to perform or trade goods, right? So,
right, and so it would make sense that at big moments for villages, they would have them both.
Yeah, and running into each other at some point probably isn't impossible.
Right, and so the Gleeman scornfully says that Fane always was one to carry bad news fast.
Yeah.
The worse news, the faster he carries
Well,
it.
you get more attention with bad news, right? It's kind of like news channels nowadays. They fill it up
let
with
me hear something good.
Yeah, It's all bad news because that gets people to pay attention.
Right. Where's the squirrel that water skis?
From
Anchorman. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got that.
Okay, so interestingly, Egwene stands up for the peddler.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. I don't know.
He's been coming to their village for 20 years, so
that's true.
They know each other.
Sort of, yeah. So Egwene says that he's funny and happy and often brings good news too.
Yeah.
He's been coming here a long time. You're actually the stranger.
Don't be talking bad news.
Maybe back off a little. So, again, creepy old man Gleeman looks at her. He doesn't even acknowledge what she says.
Yeah, totally blows over it.
And just calls her a lovely lass.
Yeah.
Asks her to be his assistant tomorrow because he always has the prettiest girl be his assistant.
Oh.
And instead of being like creeped out or grossed out,
she says yes.
She's totally complimented. She's like, oh, okay.
Well, Rand's not picking up on it, so she needs the attention.
She actually gladly accepts and then glares at Rand.
Yeah.
Like maybe he hasn't complimented her like that.
Well, it's funny because Rand is surprised that Egwene is mad at him, even though he didn't laugh at this, even though Perrin and Matt did.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Rand doesn't get any of this.
He doesn't know. I don't even think he knows he's supposed to compliment her.
Yeah.
At this point.
No, he doesn't.
And she's glaring at him and sending him all these things that he's not picking up. So that's kind of funny. So the Gleeman's name, we find out, is Thom Merrilin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to say Thom.
Yeah, not Thom.
Because these stupid H's. Get out of here!
Silent H's make it more mystical. We talked about this.
So he launches into a rehearsed speech about himself. Essentially. That's the spark notes of that.
There's a little bit of sarcasm going on here, though, because he says once a court bard. So a court bard would be like you're a bard, so like a higher position of a Gleeman, and court would mean in a...
Oh, like a kingdom almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, like a higher court.
So to be at court would mean, amongst the lords and ladies. So he's saying once a court bard, now risen to the exalted rank of Master Gleeman wouldn't be above court bard. So he's being totally sarcastic about this.
I didn't get any of that. I mostly glazed over it because I think he's annoying.
Yeah, well, he's definitely annoying, but he's clearly kind of lowered in station here. And probably not to, please don't.
But he's bragging about himself. Is he just assuming that these people are so lowly that they just have no idea what the fuck that means?
Yes, 100%. Because they're
Why
people...
would he even bring it up? Why wouldn't he just say, I'm a master Gleeman. Once a Gleeman, now I'm a master Gleeman. Why would he even say, once a court bard, now a master Gleeman, if it doesn't make sense?
Well, because people who are, narcissistic or think really highly of themselves are going to talk themselves up even to anybody.
Even if one person there knows what a court bard is, and then it can blow his whole thing?
Probably, but he's probably assuming none of them do.
Right.
Because these are people who still think that the war in Gildan is important. And in his mind, not important.
These idiots.
Yeah.
These stupid morons.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt then asks Master Merlin, and at this point, I keep on in my brain saying Merlin.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing him like a sorcerer.
Well, it's funny that you say that because RJ, in his names, he really likes to use, in some of these countries, Arthurian names.
Gotcha.
So Merlin is actually...
there's talk later on about Arthur and stuff, which I kept reading as Arthur.
Yeah, like King Arthur. Yeah, so there's actually a play on words going. So Merlin is actually a play on Merlin.
Okay. Yeah. So if I accidentally call him Merlin when we're talking, you're just going to go with it?
I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm going to try with Merlin.
Yeah.
Matt asks him about the war, and he acts a little offended.
Yeah.
Do I look like a peddler?
The pretentiousness is coming out.
Yeah. And then he doesn't really tell them anything and says that I'm here for my own art.
Yeah.
My art.
Yeah.
Then at this point, the Gleeman takes a sudden interest in Rand. He notices how tall he is and his different eye color.
Yeah.
And at this point, Rand is pretty self-conscious still. I know we touched on this last episode, when we first met an Egwene and we saw the interactions of Rand and Egwene. Yep. Rand is definitely kind of a self-conscious guy. He's not really full of himself. He doesn't think that highly of himself.
Yeah, like emotionally.
Yeah, and then we also find out that he's been teased because of his eye color before.
Yeah.
So automatically, guards go up and he thinks this Gleeman's making fun of him.
It's kind of funny because in this paragraph, we're really getting drilled into Rand's physical description.
Yes.
So he's taller than anybody else in the entire district. So I have to ask you a question about how tall do you think Rand actually is?
Well, I feel like that's a hard question for me to answer because depending on how tall everybody else is, like if the average height is 6 feet, then he's really freaking tall. If the average height for a man is like 5'5" and he's like 5'10".
Yeah. I like to just bring up that question because it's noted over and over again. Rand is a tall guy. And when he says axe handle across the shoulders, if you think about an axe, like that's a big set of shoulders he's got. How big is your axe?
In this universe, how big is an axe?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can assume regular size.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I'm just sort of picturing him. Do we think that he's also taller than like all of the full-grown men?
Yes, he is.
So he's not necessarily even full-grown yet.
He's not full-grown yet, and he's taller than everybody in the district.
So he's probably like that guy that you see that has to like duck under doorways.
He's getting close to that
and
point.
You like look and notice.
Yeah.
And you don't want to say anything or be rude about it, but you're like, that guy's fucking tall.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just had to ask because we're getting drilled with that information over and over
again. Okay, I'm going to go... Do we get a height?
Yeah, I'll give you the height later on.
Oh, we do get one?
Yeah.
So I can predict?
Yeah, you can predict. So I'll give you a height afterwards.
Okay, I'm going to go 6'4".
Okay.
So I'm going with average height maybe around 5'10".
Okay.
For this... regular, like,
yeah, so to be taller than everybody
else.
Yeah,
like I'd picture like Sam Buey being maybe a little bit smaller. I'd picture maybe the mayor, the blacksmith, being maybe around 6'1", you know.
Yeah.
That kind of just sort of, if we're going with regular average height. A guy who's a teenage guy or like a young adult guy who's 6'4" is already taking notice that he's taller.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my height.
That's your guess? I like that. Okay. We'll come back to that later on.
All right, and I trust that you will bring that back because I don't think I'm going to remember this.
I'll for sure bring it back.
Okay. So he's taking a notice about how tall he is and then also his eye color. Rand is sensitive, feels like he's being made fun of. The Gleeman turns his attention now to Perrin, noting how jacked he is.
Yeah.
You're huge, man.
Yeah, and we know Perrin is the apprentice as a blacksmith, so obviously going to have huge... obviously arms, torso, everything like that. And we do know Perrin is half a head smaller or shorter than Rand.
Which is why I thought originally he was a short guy.
Yeah.
But if he's a head shorter than Rand, what does that really mean? Is he just average height?
Yeah, exactly.
Because is everyone a head shorter than Rand?
Yeah, so... They
basically call him, he says he's the size of an ogier?
Ogier? Is that like a French word?
Yeah, it's a French verb.
Okay.
No. Ogier?
Yeah, so we got a couple of words we're introduced here too, so I'm going to do a little bit of glossary.
Right, I was just going to say, should I know what this is?
Yeah, you got to know a couple of references here. So, first off, we have Thom referring to Rand as tall as an Aiel man. So this is the second time we've got reference to...
The Aiel waist,
Yeah, the
right?
Aiel waist.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Aiel waist is on the map. It's the far, far east.
Yes.
And it's basically a giant desert.
Okay, that makes sense, because when I think of wasteland, I think of a desert.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So now keep in mind everything I'm going to give you for description of this. This is just what Rand, Matt, Perrin, these boys... think of and know from their stories.
Gotcha.
Right? Like everything's just pretty much a storybook to them anyways.
Yeah.
So the Aiel Waste is the home of the Aiel people, and they are basically fierce, hardy, warrior type, like warrior desert people.
Okay, and this
Yeah.
is who Perrin was compared to?
No, this is who Rand is compared to.
Okay.
So he says you're as tall as an Aiel man. So the Aiel people they come off as fierce, hardy, warrior-type desert folk that are really tall, and they're
Clearly.
basically just out of a storybook.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're so far away. So that's their idea of what an Aiel is.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
And then Perrin is referred to as a...
Ogier.
Ogier.
Yeah, so this is literally a play on the word ogre.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think about an ogre and an ogier, it's actually pretty close too. So ogier...
So we're picturing Shrek.
Yeah, 100%. It's Shrek. It's a bunch of Shreks.
Hopefully a little more attractive.
Yeah, maybe. So in this world, Ogier are again in Rand Matt Perrin's eyes, just again out of the storybooks. They're a non-human race of giants. They're supposed
Are they orc-like?
No, they're
That's more Trollocs, right? That's what we talked about?
Yeah, Trollocs are like the big scary monsters, right? And Ogier are supposed to be the 10-foot tall, broad-shouldered, snout-like nose, tufted ears, like...
Ogres.
Ogres,
Shrek.
Yeah, not green, necessarily. But
Right.
they're also supposed to be like master craftspeople. So they're good with working with stone. So they're good builders.
Okay, but they're
Yeah.
like weirdos.
Yeah, well, they're giant, 10-foot tall.
Well, they look like weirdos.
Yeah.
Compared to humans.
If you're comparing it to humans, yeah, they're totally weirdos. Yeah.
So also from stories to these guys.
Yeah, 100%. And they very well might be stories, right? It's just that's what he's being described compared to.
Okay.
Right? And that's why Perrin's described as that, just because he's a giant and Ogier are also just like big, massive creatures.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so Perrin is quite modest, actually. And he says, we're just ordinary folk. We're not made-up creatures from your stories.
Yeah, because that's what they are to them.
So Thom now says, is that what they are? Made-up creatures from my stories? You lads are, what, widely traveled then? And I went, oh, burn.
Yeah, got him there.
And Rand catches on that they are definitely the butt of Thom's joke.
Yep.
But Perrin defends the group.
Yeah, and talks about all the places that they've traveled far and wide.
Yeah, it says they've been as far as Watch Hill and Devonride. And not that many people have gone that far.
Yeah.
So, for this area, these guys are the most adventurous.
Yeah.
They're like, we've been everywhere.
We've been to like the
Here.
foot of the mountains here.
Yeah, Matt jumps right in.
Yeah.
And he starts sounding boastful. Rand notes that Perrin didn't sound boastful. He was just sort of stating facts.
Yeah.
But Matt, we
100%
know,
is
completely sounding boastful, which actually makes him sound like more of an idiot.
Yeah. Especially to this Gleeman who clearly travels, all over the place.
And so he said, we've seen the mirror too. Is that how you say it? Mirror?
The Mire, yeah.
Meyer?
Yeah, Mire.
Okay. Trying to sound, I don't know, cool and brave. It's far and full of quicksand and bogs, and we've been to the mountains of mist, to the foot anyway, and, facetious Gleeman says, as far as that.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, wow, you've gone far then.
Yeah.
And this is all of the things that they're describing are all on the tiny map.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
like
all on the Two Rivers map.
Yeah, probably
So-
like a day or two journey, maybe tops.
Yeah, which is a big deal for them.
Yeah.
But it's really small in comparison.
Yeah, very small.
So Matt defends himself by saying, well, it's bad luck to enter the mountains. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, this seems like something that's been maybe passed down.
Like the superstitious feelings of...
almost so that no one leaves.
Yeah.
It's like one mom made it up one time to stop her kid from going into the mountains.
Which kind of makes sense. Like, don't go
it's bad luck to enter the mountains. And
It's
then
haunted.
now it's just been passed down.
Yeah.
And then that's what everyone believes now.
Yeah. Which, kind of makes sense. Like, don't go wandering in the mountains, because that's like a legit danger.
Yeah.
Especially...
Yeah,
You don't have a helicopter who can go and find you nowadays,
Right.
so...
Okay, and then a second point to this thing that Matt's talking about is Matt really doesn't come across as very smart here. Like, this Gleeman clearly travels all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
And Matt thinks what? He can impress this guy with having been to the foot of some mountains?
It sounds like that,
Smarten up, bud.
Yeah.
Like, I would assume being surrounded by mountains, the Gleeman would have had to travel to get there.
Yeah, like I don't know where he thinks they're coming from, but...
He might have had to go through the mountains. Like, who knows?
Yeah, but if you're like really sheltered, you might not even know how far things actually are in relation to you, right? Like, there's like, we don't know if they have maps of this world, too.
Right. Well, they have some concept of direction.
Yeah.
They talk about this to the east, this to the west, this
but like
north,
a teenager
this
doesn't always have that.
Right. And you know what's missing from here?
What?
School.
There is a lack of school.
Yeah, there's been no mention of school at any point.
That's true.
I was going to say maybe they learn it in school, but what school?
Well, school is learning how to, like, milk the cows and tend the fields, because to learn, like, you only have to...
But at some point they all learned this history.
Yeah.
They've all learned history about the dragon and the Wheel of Time and the Infinity Snake, Eternity Symbol.
Yeah.
They all know this. They all know about the Dark One. They all know about the Breaking. They all know about Aes Sedai.
Yeah. But that doesn't have to come from formal education. That can come from, like, stories around the fireplace at night.
I guess so.
Right?
Okay, so no school.
Doesn't sound like there's a formal schooling system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so that's probably why Matt seems a little stupid. Probably because he is.
Probably, yeah. That's a good estimate.
All right. So after Matt says it's bad luck to enter the mountains, our pal Egwene, Eggy says that's just foolishness and calls him by his full name.
Again, that's when you're in trouble.
That's just foolishness, ma trim. Right?
Yeah.
So after Nynaeve, really, she's taken after her.
Yeah.
Like, she sounded, because that is exactly
it's like mini Nynaeve.
Yeah, Nynaeve really just scolded Matt the same way by saying his full name, and so it's kind of funny and cute almost.
It is, yeah.
That she's like, oh, me too. But then she turns her attention to the Gleeman and tells him basically it's not right to make fun of these guys. That they clearly just don't know. Like, they have no clue. It's like you're making fun of him for being stupid because he's stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that's not funny. You're just being a jerk, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And right away, he says, you know what, you're right, and apologizes.
He takes a step back, and that's okay.
And he's like, yeah, okay, I should probably stop making fun of these, like, children, essentially.
Well, he's just come out in, like, a big huff from the inn, so, like, he's kind of
taken all riled up.
Yeah, it's his pent-up anger that he's taken out on these kids.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So Parent says, we haven't traveled as far as you, but what does Rand's height matter at all?
Mm-hmm.
And the Gleeman says, I bet you can't lift me up.
Yeah.
Like a carnival game?
Yeah, literally like carnival tricks.
Like, I'll guess your weight.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Well, that's what it sounds
right
like.
Up.
Yeah, because Perrin's like, I can lift you up right now. And Tom's like, not yet, boy. Got to be more of an audience. But in reality, he has to set up his trick.
Yeah.
Like, he's an entertainer. He's totally got carnival tricks going on here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like he sort of got caught up in all of this sort of drama.
Yeah.
And he thought it was funny. And then Egwene catches him off guard. And then he gets right into entertainment business mode.
You got to get paid, so.
Where he's like, oh, here's what about that. I know that you guys are tall and strong, but I bet you can't lift me up. And then launches into his sort of act.
Yeah. It's like a prelude to get the people excited so that he can I assume he works on tips.
Yes. And so the Gleeman says, I guess we'll have to wait till tomorrow to find out, when there's more of an audience.
Yeah.
Then he realizes that people have started to gather. He sort of looks around, eyes them up, counts people.
And says, I'll give you a taste.
Yeah. Decides to put on a teaser show.
Yeah.
A little teaser show for them.
Yeah.
So he does some gymnastics, which is quite interesting because I know he was described as spry for being an old man.
Yeah, so he seems like an old guy, but he's still got some moves.
Yeah. Does some flips and gymnastics and
tumbling.
Yeah. And then he starts juggling,
yep.
which is super cool because we thought maybe he wouldn't know how to juggle.
Because he's not a real Gleeman, but turns out he can actually juggle.
He can juggle and pretty well. Egwene is pumped.
Yeah.
This is what they've been waiting for. This is so exciting. Oh my god, they've never seen anything so entertaining in all of their lives. Yeah. Basically, Rand and Egwene forget their little irritation with each other and they're just grinning at each other. Yeah. Like, can you believe this is happening? This just is like so starry-eyed fucking wonder. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Gleeman, as he's juggling, says he has lots of stories to share. He says he has tales of war and heroes for the boys and men, and tales of something for the women. What is this?
Yeah, Aptargan cycle. I'm not 100% sure if that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, so like he clearly has this pre-rehearsed speech to get the people excited. So in this first paragraph, he's just kind of listing off It sounds like stories from
It's
this
like
age.
his pre-rehearsed thing that he
Yeah,
says. Yeah,
it's a spiel, right?
Yeah.
He's got to get the people excited. So we get a whole bunch of just different names and story titles. And we've heard some of these words like Warders, Trollocs, Ogier, Aiel. So these all are tales that have happened in the last 3,000 years.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then so after the Gleeman lists off a bunch of stories that he has to tell,
Yeah.
Egwene says, "Tell us about Len, flying to the moon and walking among stars." And it really sounds like she's heard this before and knows it well. Like, even though he has stories to tell, it's like they've heard them before, but they just like to hear them again.
Yeah. It's your entertainment, right? It's like rewatching a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Rand actually notes something interesting here, that he knows that Eggie never liked adventure stories about long journeys, and she prefers funny ones or stories where women are outsmarting people.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of lady. Because
Like
I
a
like
goat.
funny stories, and I like stories of women outsmarting people.
Yep.
That makes sense to me, except now I'm reading an adventure story about a long journey.
That's true.
So, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, taste can change.
Yeah.
Right?
So he thinks that she has requested this story only to, quote, put a burr under his shirt.
Yeah, because
which is a really funny way to say piss him off.
Yeah, well, exactly. They just had this whole fight
Yeah.
about her wanting to go away on an adventure.
And him saying, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
No one
he
leaves
wants,
here."
Yeah, he wants her to settle down and be a good wife.
Yeah, and
right?
she's saying, tells a story about someone leaving
Yeah.
somewhere.
So, I mean, he's kind of out of line thinking that she's just saying this. She
Yeah.
probably just wants to hear a story.
Maybe, though. She also has been glaring at Rand when the Gleeman compliments him. So I kind of am on the side of she did say this to have a jab.
Possibly.
Because I know teenage girls.
And you will
Like,
jab.
you know teenage boys who are dumb and
Yep.
don't know anything, and I know teenage girls who know a lot.
And are going to say things to...
Specifically hope it jabs them. And this one, Rand actually caught on to.
All right.
So good for him, I think. But he's still on this, how could she want to leave Two Rivers thing? Because no one does.
Yeah.
So at this point, Marilyn says that he has all sorts of stories, including ones about ages before this one. And then he calls this age the Age of Legends. He has stories of ages that were and will be.
Pause. He's not referring to this age as the Age of Legends.
Oh.
The Age of Legends is the age...
What?
So this is important.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm listening.
So Age of Legends is the age that Luz Theron lived in, right? Because we learned previously that the Age of Legends, which is the age of Luz Theron Telamon, that whole breaking ended the Age of Legends. That happened 3,000 years ago.
How do we know that?
Because I'm telling you. There's
Oh.
a few glossary definitions you can read into.
Because I just take your word for it.
Yeah, you have
Okay,
to.
so as a reader, in chapter 4 right
Yep.
now, I don't know this.
Yes.
I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
I assumed the way he said it is that this is the Age of Legends. But I'm okay with the, Luz Theron's and the prologue being the Age of Legends. That makes sense to me. And we know that we're in the Third Age right now, and we know that that's prophecies have happened in the Fourth Age.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't, and maybe some of our listeners don't.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And some probably do.
But, okay. And they're probably laughing at me. Oh,
Maybe. But that's okay.
well. Okay, so as someone who doesn't understand a single thing that's going on, I'm glad I have you here as my guide.
Yeah.
Because you're steering me on the right path
Yeah.
so that I'm not completely lost and I don't just give up completely because it's the most confusing thing I've ever read.
Yeah, so the biggest thing, the way to think about this is that Age of Legends was Luz Theron. 3,000 years has passed, a bunch of events transpired, and now we're here.
Okay, but we haven't heard a single thing about the other events that have transpired.
We haven't, but in that big blurb of stories Thom wants to tell,
Yeah.
those are all events that have happened in those 3,000 years.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
I can get on with that.
So we're gonna learn more about that going forward.
Good, I hope so.
Yeah, so like Archer Hawkwing, right? The
Yes.
Green Men, Warders, Trollocs,
yes,
all
yes,
that.
yes. Okay, so all of a sudden, he stops talking and he stops juggling, and Moiraine has joined the crowd.
Interesting.
Sort of interesting. It's a small village, and she was hovering around before, and she appeared out of nowhere before, so now she's appearing out of nowhere again.
Yeah, it's interesting that as soon as she arrives, he immediately stops everything.
Gotcha. That
Yes.
is interesting.
That's the interesting part.
So Lan is beside her.
Yeah. as per usual.
Yes, exactly. The Gleeman bows to her and says, "Clearly you are not from here, lady."
And that's an interesting thing to say to someone.
Except actually, I'm going to rephrase that. He says, "Clearly you're not from here." And then Ewan pipes up, says, "Lady, she's a lady."
Yeah, if you couldn't tell from the beautiful dress and the gold and the jewels and the
headpiece with a gem in the middle of her
this,
forehead,
that, and the other
and the
thing.
big tall protector guy standing at her shoulder.
Yeah. So it's not too far to think that he would understand she's not from here.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
She kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
But Ewan is really funny here. So Thom apologizes and says, "Oh shit, sorry." She says, "No apologies necessary, just call me Moiraine." But then she calls him Master Bard. So I put a whole bunch of question marks next to this.
Okay.
But I think you answered it already because I didn't pick up on his little speech about himself. He called himself a court bard. And I don't know what a bard is.
Yeah, so think of a progression of Gleeman is like your, not average, like you're a good Gleeman, you're a good entertainer, you can go to villages and perform. You're probably better than just like a
jester.
Like a jester, yeah. Right? So Gleeman's a little bit higher class, you're good at storytelling, and a bard is like an expert.
Okay.
And a master bard would be you're the top of the line.
Okay, because I wrote here, it seems like she knows who he is, like calling him Master Bard.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe he had this different name, and he's actually, and then I sort of started thinking maybe he is someone else, and he's not the Gleeman, and maybe I'm right.
So, but he was being sarcastic about I used to be a court bard.
Yeah.
Now I'm a
Master Gleeman.
Master Gleeman, which is a downgrade in position.
But she's calling him Master Bard.
It's a super weird exchange between two people who seemingly don't know each other.
Yeah. And so I sort of said, this name is different than the one he gave, but now this all sort of makes a little bit more sense. So she says, "You're right, I am a stranger here." And Ewan is right in there, so eager to tell this guy all that he knows about her. So
yeah, he's like
he's like,
right
"Oh, by
in
the
there.
way, I've already talked to her and I already know about her. Let me tell you."
Because he wants her to come to his house for dinner, right? I think.
No, honey cakes. Just
Honey
treats.
cakes?
Just treats.
Just treats,
Just
yeah.
come, my mom will make
He's
you
trying
some
to win
cookies.
affection.
Maybe a little bit. He's trying to impress her more than the Gleeman at this point, I
Yeah.
think. So he tells the Gleeman that Moiraine collects stories, and Marilyn says, "I trust you will like my stories too." But he looks really wary of her.
Yeah, so there's a lot of subtext going on here.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on the line previously? Moiraine, when she's saying, "My name is simply Moiraine,"
Yes.
not Lady Moiraine.
Yes.
The next thing she says is, "I am a stranger, traveler like yourself."
And it can be dangerous.
The world can be a dangerous place when one is a stranger.
Is she sort of like threatening him?
This sounds, when I read this, it sounds like an underlying threat.
Yes.
If you come out and say, "Hey, it's dangerous for strangers out there,"
And he's
she's got
clearly alone, and she's not.
and she has Lan, who's
Yeah.
a big scary Wolf-Man apparently.
Yeah, Wolf-Man. Wolf-Man Lan.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds, and now Thom is responding by saying, "You're gonna like my stories, don't worry,"
Yes.
right? And he's being wary, so it's kind of like a super weird exchange.
Yeah, and then Rand, who didn't really pick up on any of that,
None of it.
wonders what kind of entertainment might be around where she's from. In a city like
Baerlon or
or
Camelin.
Camelin.
Mhm.
Surely nothing could be better than a Gleeman.
Yeah.
And I just said, "Oh, Rand, so nice."
He's not even picking up
yeah,
any of
he
this.
has no idea that like strip clubs exist.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Only stripper poles. Yeah.
So Moiraine says that that's a matter of taste and calls him Master Bard again.
Yeah.
But it's almost in a offensive tone. Like she's saying it to annoy him.
Yeah, she's putting a huge title on him,
Yeah.
which clearly he doesn't really want.
Yeah.
Just like she doesn't want to be referred to as Lady Moiraine.
Yeah. And he says, "Oh, don't worry, you'll love them." So she gives him a curt nod and leaves with Lan.
Yeah.
So Thom stares after them, and he's clearly not pleased.
Yeah, because he ended that whole conversation by saying, "I'm a simple Gleeman." That and nothing more.
Gotcha.
So these two seem to be in positions that neither of them want each other exposing their true
And maybe that's why she just up and leaves
Yeah.
instead of continuing this sort of weird back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone starts yelling at him again.
Matt's,
Juggle more! Eat fire!
yeah, Matt's awesome in this. I want to see you eat fire.
He shouts at him, play the harp, play the flute.
Yeah.
But then only...
Hey, and there's a harp. You're right. He probably plays the harp.
Oh, yeah. I love when my super
Wild predictions
wild
come true.
predictions are totally right. So, then, the only way that people know how to dramatically enter a scene in this chapter, the indoor swings open.
Yeah, everyone's just banging open doors. Yeah.
Going into the inn, banging doors, Nynaeve. Leaving, banging doors, Gleeman.
Yeah.
Banging doors, leaving the inn, the village council. So they all file out, and they have Nynaeve in tow, but they're without Fane, who probably wanted to stay in and have a drink and not be out in the cold.
Yep.
Thom Merrilin apparently needs a drink too, really badly.
Which makes sense.
And he basically pushes his way into the inn as these guys are exiting.
Well, he wanted one previously, and he didn't get it. He got booted out.
Yeah, he was pretty eager to sort of show off his talents and give him a little bit of a taste. So Sen Bui, surprise, surprise, complains about him being a waste of money.
I know, it's shocking, right? Yeah. He's complaining.
Complainer guy is complaining. So
Yeah.
surprising. So Bran makes to go after him, but then says he's not worth the trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Nynaeve says to him, don't worry about him or the false dragon because he's not here to worry about. And she says there are other things here that should be worth worrying about.
Which is interesting because she's referring to Moiraine and Lan. Yeah.
For sure.
So
but
she
I think
thinks
she's
that-
just pissed off because of Moiraine called her a child.
There's definitely probably a little
Like,
bit
if
of
they had gotten off to
a good start.
a good start and had a really nice conversation where she felt respected, I don't think that she'd be raising any questions about
Yeah,
them.
it might be totally different interaction. But in this case, yeah. And
So,
and that's why Bran is just saying, hey, these are my guests, right?
yeah,
I
he
trust
says,
them.
listen, lady, I'll decide who I should worry about. Moiraine and Lan are decent, respectable folk, and they're nice to him and the council, unlike you.
Yeah. Well, Nynaeve keeps threatening to whomp people with her stick.
Yes. Well,
And so far, we don't think Moiraine has.
I don't even know if she has a stick.
On the front cover, it looks like she's got a big stick.
Yeah, actually, you're right about
Yeah.
that. She does have a staff.
Yeah,
But she hasn't hit anyone with it yet.
that's true.
That we know of. So Nynaeve says something about the council being stupid and strides off before Bran has a chance to respond. Eggy hesitates, but follows after the wisdom instead of staying to chat with Rand because she knows kind of what's more important here.
Yeah.
If she pisses off Nynaeve, she loses every chance.
Yeah, that's
she
her
has.
tutor, her mentor. So.
And apparently Nynaeve is super temperamental, so best go with her
Yep.
if that's your teacher.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense why she leaves with her.
So Rand thinks about how to stop her from leaving. The only way would really be to marry her, but at this point, he's not ready and she's not willing.
Yeah.
So, shit.
And I mean, Rand's kind of taking this really quick. He's just thinking that you got to get married tomorrow, when in reality, it's like, maybe court each other for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? You don't need her to move to your farm tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. So Sen here is in a huff about Nynaeve again. We're not surprised. He's clearly in this mood. He's been in this mood the entire time we've known him.
Yep.
Which is what, the span of like an hour or two?
It'd be like 3 or 4 hours,
Yeah,
maybe.
so he's just, maybe it's a bad afternoon. I don't know. But
Yeah.
Bran yells at him to let it go. But apparently the only one who can make the Thatcher see reason is Luhan the blacksmith.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his size that intimidates Sen, so he's like quiet around him. Or maybe he just like respects the man.
Yeah, and sometimes, people have that one person who can get on the same level as, someone
Yeah.
else. So, did you pick up on that little bit of a slur that the mayor had uttered?
No.
So, he tells Sen to stop acting like a black-veiled Aiel.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's that mean?
What's that mean? So, we know that the Aiel, from what we know from the boys, right, are the desert warrior folk.
Ooh,
Right.
right.
So apparently, and from what the stories tell us, anytime an Aielman is going to do violence, they veil themselves. So think face veil.
Yeah,
that would
well,
cover
I'm
up.
thinking like, obviously when someone gets married, like a woman gets married, she wears a veil over her face.
Yeah, so not
like, her
not
face
from
is
the top
covered.
down, but it's like if you bring the kerchief up over your
Like
mouth
a
and nose.
bandana type thing.
Yeah.
If you're snowboarding, like that kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
situation.
So apparently, anytime the Aiel are going to do violence, they cover their faces up to their eyes with a black veil.
Ah.
So if you say stop acting like a black veiled Aielman, it's kind of like stop acting like an aggressive person who's trying to cause harm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of like that.
Just a little bit of culture there. So.
Yeah, I like that. No problem. So everyone disappears at this point. They disperse and sort of go back to their, I don't know, I guess they're still spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Because it's literally been 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So Matt, Rand, and Perrin go over to see Thom because the whole village council has filed out and they are clearly done with what they need to do.
Yep.
Rand says, "Wow, I've never seen the mayor so mad." And Matt's super annoyed, most likely because he wants Rand to ask about the interesting stuff.
Yeah.
The mayor being annoyed isn't interesting. Ask about, you just questioned the guy who knows all about the war.
Yeah,
Ask
Matt
about
wants
that.
to know about battles. He wants to know about the dragon and the Aes Sedai and everything.
Yes. So Thom says, yeah, it's normal for the mayor and the wisdom to disagree. And Matt just blurts out, what about the false dragon and the Aes Sedai? So Thom, quite level-headed, responds with, Fane basically told everybody everything already. He didn't really have much more to tell us.
Yeah, couldn't add to it.
And I don't really buy it.
So you don't think that Thom is being totally honest with these boys?
Not with Matt.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense, right? You don't want to stir the pot even more. And what is the boys knowing all the details going to help anything?
Exactly. That's what I mean by I don't really buy it.
Yeah, and Thom seems like a pretty level-headed, smart guy.
Yes.
So, like, I would think that everything's going to be handled properly, and it's just not relevant.
Yeah, so basically he says all he knows is that the war is all in Gildan, and it hasn't spread, so that's good.
Yeah, so that is good news, because if war goes to more countries, like, that's a big cause for concern.
So they're well protected, with the mountains to the west, the bogs and quicksand, and the mire to the east. There's a big forest and a great river to the south, and there's no reason for the Aes Sedai to go there on their way south.
Yeah, so we kind of got the confirmation that Two Rivers is really tucked away.
Yeah, they're protected. Right? So not only are they sheltered from news, but they're also protected from some bad shit.
Yeah, just by, like, natural barriers.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So Matt's disappointed.
Obviously.
Yeah, we could have predicted that one. But Thom says after Bel Tine tomorrow, they'll be sending men north and south to patrol, quote, just in case.
Yeah, and that's smart to kind of put up a patrol, because that, not only keeps an eye out for, anything that might happen, it makes everyone else, rest easy.
Yes. So Matt immediately offers to be part of it. I'll do it. I'll help patrol.
He just is dying for some sort of
adventure. He
wants
some sort of adventure. Yeah. He's so bored, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't want to milk any more cows. And trust me, I milk lots of cows.
Yeah, he milks cows like all morning, every day for his entire life. Like, I totally understand why he wants to get away.
So Thom says, it'll be boring and cold, but, sure, whatever you want. Ask Master Elvire about it tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. Ask him about it.
Thom has a really, really cool line here, too, when they're quizzing him, essentially, about what's going on. Because the boys said, why do we need a patrol if there's nothing to worry about, right? Which kind of makes sense. But then Thom says, I said should not, boy, not did not. And then he says an interesting line, I've seen men die because they were sure that what should not happen would not.
Yes.
So Thom's got some interesting life advice for being a farmer.
So at this point then, Thom drops a bomb and says, okay, Rand, let's go back to the farm.
Yeah.
So Rand is surprised and said, I thought we were staying for winter night, which is the first we hear of what this holiday today is called, or tonight.
Yeah.
So Bel Tine is essentially celebrating that winter night is over?
Yeah, like winter night is the night before Bel Tine.
Okay.
I just think of it like Christmas Eve versus Christmas.
So is that their name for like the equinox?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Is it around? It's around that time. So
yeah, we assume it's right around that time.
It's the night before Bel Tine anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking right away, that sucks. Will they even come back for the festival tomorrow?
Yeah. Like they traveled all morning to get here.
It seems like a long way for them to go back and forth.
Yeah. And totally not normal, because Rand is so surprised. Probably what usually happens is they come in a couple days before the festival. They stay over at the inn.
Well, we
for a
did
couple
hear
days.
from Thom that if it were not for the festival, he wouldn't even be going.
Yeah, and they also usually don't wait so long to come in for the festival, right?
Okay, but Thom says nope. Pulls dad rank, says things need seeing at the farm, and I need you with me. And Rand goes, "Aw, but Dad, can't we stay a little longer? I want to be on patrol too."
And then Dad says 5 more minutes.
Yeah, but then he says we'll be back tomorrow, which is good news. So they are going to come back. They're going to make the journey back again.
Check on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back tomorrow with plenty of time to talk to the mayor about volunteering and plenty of time before the festival. So he's just sort of being, fatherly.
Yes.
At this point. Like, don't worry, we'll do the things you want to do, but first we have to do the things you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes off to the stables and Matt asks Perrin if he will join them. He seems hesitant but says, yeah, I guess so. Rand says, but guys, what about the Black Rider? Have you forgotten? And they argue back and forth for a bit. They think maybe the Watch will find him. So this Watch that's going out patrolling, maybe they'll find this Black Rider.
Yeah. I mean, the Watch isn't going to be started until the day after Bel Tine, but yeah, they're assuming that he's going to be picked up or caught by, and that kind of makes sense if it's a regular, normal, like they say, they think it might be a refugee, they think it might be a thief, right? Who knows?
Yeah. So Matt says they should tell the council right away, and Perrin is a little incredulous and says, no way will they believe us, they'll laugh at us. Luhan and Thom already think we're seeing things, jumping at shadows. They will just laugh. Rand says, let's just tell them now. If they're going to laugh tomorrow, they're going to laugh today. We might as well get this information out there.
Yeah, and it's a huge back and forth conversation. Like, do we tell them? Do we not tell them?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Perrin brings up a good point that they should ask around to see if anyone else has seen the Black Rider. Basically, he's saying they need a more reliable witness than Matt.
Yeah, Matt's not good.
No, he's not good for the team.
Yeah.
So the team decides to wait until tomorrow, and Matt and Perrin will try to find others tonight. Because it sounds like there's kind of like parties and stuff that happen tonight.
Probably is, and that's probably part of the fun of staying.
Bonfires and that sort of stuff. That's what I picture anyway.
Yeah, and that's probably part of the fun of staying over for winter night is you get to do all those,
and so that's why he was disappointed and was like, but Dad.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah. So then after this, Rand catches up with Thom in the stables, and we meet some horses.
Yeah, love meeting horses.
A tall black stallion that must be Lan's.
Yeah, just by the size probably.
A sleek white mare that must be Moiraine's.
Makes sense.
And a raggy brown horse that must be Thom Merrilin's.
Yeah, because that's the only one left.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny that people have like matching horses to their personality.
Yeah.
Even Thom has Bella, who's like steady and reliable.
Yeah.
Like just like him.
So do you have a favorite horse yet?
Well, Moiraine's my favorite.
Moiraine's horse is also your favorite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably because, like, she's pretty. So who doesn't like the pretty one? I connect with her on a personal level.
Yeah.
I also, like to be called lady.
Okay.
Oh, no, she doesn't like to be called
No, she
lady.
doesn't want to be called it, but at least not by some people.
Right. Okay. But yeah, the admiration of all, men, that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, 100%.
So the two of them set off for home. Thom seems deep in thought, and Rand doesn't like the idea of trying to convince his father, much less the mayor, about the rider. But Rand is trying to be ready for an attack from the rider. He's got his bow and arrow at the ready, as if this guy is going to jump out at them at any second.
Yeah, and I mean, not just this guy, because on the way to town, he also had his bow ready because wolves and bears.
Right, okay.
So there is a legitimate reason to be ready.
He seems less worried about wolves and bears on this journey back.
Yeah, than
Quite honestly,
spooky Ghost Rider.
Yeah, he's way more concerned about this Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Than I don't even think wolves and bears are even on his mind.
Yeah, not right now, but there is a reason.
Well, yeah, there's that, but that's not really what he's thinking.
No,
about.
not at all.
So Rand finally asked Thom why they needed to question Padan Fain, and he says, everyone is already pretty scared. Why did you have to pull him aside? Why couldn't we all just talk and hear it? And I don't know. I think this is just sort of like a lame question that he came up with to sort of break the ice.
Yeah, I can just
the silence.
Yeah, imagine like the awkward silence for like quite a while they're just walking.
And maybe he's going over. And when you sort of ask the question in your head before you say it out loud.
Yeah.
And then he's finally come up with this one that's like good enough to say out loud.
Yeah.
So I like how patient and honest Thom is here with Rand.
He has like awesome dad wisdom.
Oh, it's awesome.
I think. Yeah.
So Thom replies that people are funny and might not always behave as you would expect them to. Mm-hmm. The people in the village are stubborn and tough, but when it comes to worrying about war, they all freak themselves right out. And by morning, they will be convinced the whole war is descending upon them, and that would really screw up Bel Tine.
Yeah, and it's kind of like mob mentality, right? Like, I wrote down in my notes, Thom equals smart, because
Well,
like he totally is, right?
Yeah.
He knows that if you present a huge issue in front of a mob of people, they're way more likely with people like Senbui, who are like putting
they take it and they spin it and they tell other people
as the worst possible thing.
The snowball effects.
Yeah, huge.
Absolutely.
So, and we saw Thom whispering to Bran previously, right before they got ushered inside, right? So likely this was all Tam's idea to like hustle everyone inside.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, we got that part. I got that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that makes sense. And then so Bran gave them the idea before they could get it for themselves. So instead of worrying about it for weeks, wrecking Bel Tine, making this terrible, Bran gives them the idea so that they see the council taking action. So they'll not spread crazy rumors and they'll feel more at ease. And that's what you mentioned before.
Yeah, it's a good strategy.
Yeah, he also mentions here that the council was voted in, so the villagers definitely trust them as leaders, which is a big deal. And I'm wondering, who is voting in Senbui?
The Congers and the Coplans, probably.
Fuck
right?
them. Come on, like, what is that? He's the freaking worst.
Yeah.
He's the representation of the complainer guys.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, if it is an appointed position, right?
Seriously.
Yeah. He's like the devil's advocate for all the logical people.
Sure, in the like worst way possible.
In the
Because
worst
sometimes
way.
devil's advocate is like a positive thing when you're looking at all sides to something.
Yeah.
He's just the worst, grumpiest old man.
Yeah.
Who never sees any
Maybe
positive.
he got voted in like long ago before he was like this, and it's just spiraled.
So you don't think they do like annual re-elections?
We don't know. But yeah, he hasn't been voted out, right? So
Yeah. And then at this point, Rand thinks, holy smokes, being on the council is complicated business.
Yeah, very.
And so he's learning more about the world a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not so black and white. It's not so clear cut. It's not being on the council means you get to just be a leader. You have to think about all these different nuances when a situation arises.
And apparently nothing ever really exciting happens in the Two Rivers, so if nothing exciting happens, there's no reason to go into all this detail.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So then Thom pipes up with a, hey, did anyone other than Perrin see the strange rider? Like, just bomb.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. And Rand says, Matt did, but then he stops in shock and says, wait, you believe me? And, you know, for me, when Rand brought this up with Thom on the way to Emmonsfield, I didn't get the impression that Thom didn't believe him. I don't know why he wouldn't believe him. He basically told him that he did and that he trusted him when he first saw him.
Yeah, it was more like Rand's self-doubt, right? Because Thom said, okay, let's go back and see. And then Rand stopped Thom and said, no, we don't have to go check it out. And that's kind of like the lack of confidence that Rand has.
Yeah, that's totally what this is. Because there was nowhere that indicated that Thom wouldn't believe him.
Yeah.
But Rand was so concerned that he wouldn't believe him.
Yeah.
It didn't quite make sense to me. So Rand says, oh my god, I can't believe that you believe me. I have to go back and tell the others.
Yeah, and he
Rand,
just turns to run.
Yeah, like, I gotta go back. Like, how long have they been walking? An hour?
Yeah.
Like, no, bud.
Yeah.
So Thom stops him and says, why do you think I waited so long to talk to you? I don't want you going back there to go talk to them.
Yeah.
Thom basically says all the adults, anyone over 16 anyway, will all know there's a stranger lurking about. At least Perrin will. We're not sure about Matt. And that's just a dig at his immaturity, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think Matt's over 16, but he doesn't count as someone who's over 16
Yeah,
in the
definitely
eyes
isn't.
of the village council.
Well,
anyway.
and there's another dig that's really funny in the next couple paragraphs here, too.
Yeah, so Thom then says, maybe this guy's a refugee or a thief, and even so, that's no excuse for scaring people. The Watch will hopefully find him or scare him off. And Rand asks, why do you believe me now? And again, it's not, I don't think he didn't believe him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in Rand's eyes, it seems that way. Like, this is totally Rand's perspective.
Yes.
But again, your perspective is not always accurate.
Gotcha. Okay. So he, being Thom, says apparently only young men have seen this guy. And in the meeting, Luhan told them that Perrin was jumping at shadows, and it all came out. So John Thane's oldest son saw him, and not Samuel.
Yeah, not Samuel Craw.
Sammy Craw's son, Bandry, saw him too. So now the council knows of 4, quote, solid boys.
It's 4 solid boys and Matt.
Yes.
Have seen this rider.
To be fair, they didn't know about Matt.
Yeah.
When they were discussing it. But, yeah, definitely, they're solid.
Yeah.
Boys saying that they've seen such a thing, so maybe it must be there even if, like, they don't see him.
Yeah.
But that's why they're going home now. And if it weren't for Bel Tine, they wouldn't be going back tomorrow at all.
Which makes sense because Tam doesn't really want to go in the first place, but it's festival.
And Rand says he didn't know about these guys, Ban or Lem, and tells his dad the plan was to go to the mayor tomorrow. And Tam says, maybe if I look out, I'll see him too.
So it's kind of unique that only young boys are seeing this rider.
Yes.
Not girls, not...
So far that we know anyway.
Yeah, from what we've heard.
So they carry on home, and Rand notes that he feels lighter now. That he knows his dad believes him, and that the other boys have seen it too. So he feels like he has the support of the entire village, and he thinks there was nothing the black-cloaked horsemen could do that the people of Emmonsfield could not handle together.
And what a wonderful sentence to end on.
And I think, with a statement like that, there are definitely things that this guy will do to fuck shit up.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no way!
It's just like, this is going to be the best Bel Tine ever.
Yeah, there's no way this guy can harm us.
Yeah.
Next scene, he's harming them.
Well, and it's funny because we just got the advice from Tam that says, you know, people die because you think that what shouldn't happen won't.
Yeah, come on, Rand.
Yeah, not picking up on that.
Use your brain. Use your brain, Rand.
Yeah. So that was an awesome way to end because the next chapter is called
Winter Night.
Winter Night.
And again,
not Bel
will
Tine.
Bel Tine ever fucking come?
In 12 more chapters, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so do you have any extra thoughts about this rider only showing himself to young boys? I didn't want that to come off the way I just said it, but...
And when you say young boys, you could say young men. Young
men.
adults.
Young
because
adult
they're not
men.
boys. They're not young boys. They're not 8.
Yeah.
Young boys would be young boys, but they are not. They are young adults.
So what are your thoughts on this rider showing himself or revealing himself to young men in this town?
Yeah, young men, for sure. I know we keep referring to them as boys, but they're definitely men. Like, Rand's apparently of marrying age.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a boy anymore.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. Like, now we know there's 5 of them for sure who have seen this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe more. And it's all sort of the younger men.
It seems to be the same rough age.
Right. And so I'm thinking it might be sort of a generational thing.
Okay, what do you mean by generational?
I'm not sure. I haven't really thought much about this, quite honestly.
So I have a question for you then. So when Moiraine first showed up to town...
Yes.
What was she asking Nynaeve? Do you remember?
No.
So she was asking Nynaeve about ages of the boys in the town.
Oh, yes. Okay, now I remember that.
They had a whole conversation, and it was kind of offhanded. But she came into town, and she was asking Nynaeve about where people were born and how old people were.
Okay, so I think that definitely there's a generational thing that matters. And
Okay.
I don't know if that has to do with, you know, the age that they're in, like age of time, and you know, as the older guys go on, then there's these new guys who might be a little more open, especially in this village. It seems like the older people are kind of stuck in their ways, and the younger ones are looking to get out and get on with more adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But other than that, I don't really have a solid anything for you.
Yeah,
at
we
this
haven't
point.
really been given much.
Literally nothing.
Yeah.
And so I'm grasping at straws because you just asked me this question. I wasn't ready for it.
That's okay. But I wanted to kind of put that in the back of your brain.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're definitely...
the nugget of information, along with all the others.
All the other nuggets of information.
Yeah, they're all going to start falling out of my ears soon, but...
And we'll come back to it.
Okay, so I think that'll do it for this episode of The Wheel Weaves.
Yeah, I think we're just about done. Now we get to go and meet the sheep, I guess, back at the farm.
Yeah, they're on their way back to the farm for winter night. Winter's night? Winter night.
Winter night, yeah.
Winter night. And hopefully, you know, something exciting happens.
Hopefully.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to it. I guess we'll slam the indoor on this episode.
All right, let's do that.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Wheel Weaves. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe. It does mean a lot to us and makes a big difference. Please tell your friends or anyone who might like us, or anyone who's thinking of getting into the series. You can find us on social media on Instagram at The Wheel Weaves Podcast and on Twitter at The Wheel Weaves Podcast. If you feel like you'd like some bonus content and waiting a week is just too much for more of The Wheel Weaves, you can also find some insider, exclusive looks, and to support us making great content, you can head to patreon.com/The Wheel Weaves Podcast. Thanks to Audionautics for the music, and thanks to you awesome listeners. See you next Tuesday. Before we get into our episode today, we just wanted to give a shout out to all of our awesome listeners around the world. At time of recording today, we have downloads from Canada, United States, Brazil, United Kingdom, Australia, Russia, Philippines, Saudi Arabia, France, Italy, Romania, Austria, Germany, Sweden, Israel, Netherlands, Norway, Hungary, Bulgaria, India, Turkey, and Spain.